Hey guys, welcome back to our next video. Now, this video we're moving on into information gathering, so-called. This is basically procedures of, as the name suggests, gather information. So there are much speculation and questions about information gathering, especially when they are asked from newbies and new to hacking. So even I myself was asked many times by myself, why do I need to collect so much information and how I can use that information. But the practice basically teaches that everything is based on our information. Basically, the most important job when we are talking about hacking is to gather and validate that information. So let's say you are targeting something. You cannot hack something without knowing what you're hacking and without knowing how that's working. If you are into programming, like you know that it's really important to write proper names for variables and for functions, because if function is returning like a string but the function is called the function's name is like a, and it's returning a string, and then we have variables like y, j, and k, we wouldn't know what the heck is going on with our program, right? It will have some logic, but if we want to basically update that and make some changes, we need to basically understand what's going on, and it's pretty hard without setting up the proper names. So in the hacking, the information is kind of the same idea, because basically any action is going to be based on that information we collect. And right now we're talking about BlackArch, but these ideas and tools are used and can be used by any Linux whatsoever. Me myself are using Linux Mint for hacking, because I think this is one of the most stable distro right there, and it works out perfectly for me. It has a lot of tools and it has Ubuntu software there, a lot of packets, but mainly I use that distribution. And I want to tell you that it really does not matter what Linux you're using. You have to be like to know what you're doing and to have an idea about what you're doing. So let's begin with the information part. What is decided to be information? What is known to be information? So basically the information or the information gathering process is separated by two parts. It has an active part and it has a passive part. So information itself can be very anything, and it really depends on the scope of the project you are inside. Because let's say if the information is about people, so if the scope are the people, if you are attacking the people, information about the people can be like physical address, can be what they like, can be where they go, what they work, their family members, the pets they have, hobbies they have, basically anything. So the scope is social engineering attacks toward the people or a specific person. So the information we need is anything that can help us do the job. So in that case, anything that can help us do a sufficient social engineering strategy. So that's the point of the whole information gathering procedure. When we're talking about hacking infrastructure, or let's say hacking web applications, see, my backup just crashed out. Nice. I'm gonna reboot that really fast. So when we're talking about hacking infrastructure or web application, information can be like an IP address. An IP address for a backdoor. Let's say a hidden IP address which were hidden behind a firewall. It can be a hidden port. It can be hidden service from that port. It can be literally anything. It can be a different machine on a network. It can be literally anything that can help us do the job. So and if it's the web application, it's basically a hidden page, no certificate page. It can be page without validation, it can be secret login page without plugin source software for security checks, it can be fields or places when we can input different parameters and so on. It can be literally anything. So the information is key here. So literally we need a lot of information in order to make a success. What I mean by successful hack: our job as a penetration tester is to basically penetrate and exploit vulnerabilities, gain access, get privileges, get access to unauthorized files, resources, and so on. So that's the main idea of our goal. Sorry. So basically, somehow if we manage to, so basically depending on that project we have different goal, and depending on that goal we need to gather proper information. So that's the chain here. We have our project, we have our main goal, let's say for example hack into that system. So this is our goal. Therefore we have that goal, and we need to accomplish that goal by collecting information and by searching for vulnerabilities. So that's the point. So the point I want to make also is that the information, any action, literally any action from anything, any hacker whatsoever, is based on the information they gathered. So that's why information is so important, because any action is based on the gathered information. You cannot act by default, you cannot act and rely on intuition. Yeah, intuition is good and it can help you find information and vulnerabilities, but we cannot rely only on that. So there is a sense of hacking when you have enough practice and just you know where to go and you start collecting information just in that direction. But since you have newbies and new to hacking, you have to rely on pure facts, on gathering information. So this video is all about that. I'm going to show you how to gather information, what's the passive information gathering, what's the active information gathering, and so on. So there are many tools for gathering information, and I hope I was clear about the information, the theoretical part there. You have to understand that the information is really the most important thing ever to hacking. If you find vulnerabilities that have exploit even, it's really easy to exploit. It's simple as that for exploiting. The point is that to find that vulnerability, to see the weak point, to see where to strike. The whole striking is easy. It does not require so much technical skills. But that's why the hacking is hard, because you have to think really creative and smart to find where the application or the server or even the person can be weakened. So that's what I'm doing today. We're gonna be gathering information about different people, let's say companies, passive active information gathering. So let's start. As I said, there are many tools for gathering information, and my favorite one is basically Discover script. So go to Google or any search engine you want, type Discover GitHub, click the first page. So basically this script is doing amazing job, and now I'm going to show you how it's working. So copy the link, git clone, let's say nice. Now cd there to that discarding. Now visit the directory and basically run that update.sh. So update.sh. So now I have to explain what's that script, why I can use it so much, and some procedures, some theoretical explanations more about gathering information. I'm paying that much attention for that because, as I said, it's literally the most important part. It's like the structure of the whole engagement, of the whole process of hacking. You know, it's really anything that we build, that we hack, any action is based on information we gather. So when we're talking about gathering information, we are really talking about collecting different pieces of evidence. Like as I said, it can be IP address, it can be some person's physical address, it can be literally anything. So we are collecting different pieces of information, right? The next thing that we have to do in common is to basically store that information somewhere. If we are talking about really huge engagement, you can store that information into database and create different relations between the database, so you can extract anything anytime. That's when we are talking about really huge projects. When we are talking about more of 100 machines at a time, you need to really store somewhere that much information. But when we are talking about more small projects, like 10, 12, 20 machines, I always like to use some application for storing information like KeepNote, and we're gonna go into that. So we have to gather information, we have to store information, and the next part is to basically analyze what we have stored, and then try to basically perform some actions based on that information, based on that analysis right there. So we need first to gather as much information as we can, then we need to analyze what we have, to remove the junk, to remove the impossible scenarios, and then to make up a strategy for hacking. As I said, the strategy can be social engineering attack, can be infrastructure attack towards the IP, it can be web app attack towards the web application. So that's the point right here. For storing information, I like KeepNote. We're gonna install that, you're gonna see how it works. And the KeepNote is basically a tool which helps us to write our own text files, make different directories. We can even attach files, attach log files, attach anything right there, and by double clicking the file is displayed. So it's really working really nice. Some people use Motigo for that case because it's really nice, it's creating a graph so you see the relations real time, and we're gonna get into Motigo as well. But now let's focus on the whole idea. So the discard is now installing. As you can see, there are a lot of dependencies that we need to install. So this script is working pretty damn amazing. It has a lot of possibilities for gathering active and passive information, and even for starting listeners and generating exploits and so on. So basically, these two, let me explain first what is passive and active information gathering. So passive information gathering is a procedure when you basically gather information without your target to know anything. You gather information from all open source intelligence, as we said, OSINT sources, so your target do not see anything about an investigation against him. There are OSINT framework, there are many websites from where you can extract a lot of information about a specific target. Some examples for these sites are, let's say, Whois. And when we go here, type of domain, let's say and see we have information about a company. So there are OSINT framework here. Open Source Intelligence stands for OSINT, and see here we have a lot of fields where we can basically gather information or extract information. There are really a lot of things to cover and a lot of things to experiment with yourself. See, we have literally anything: terrorism, dark web, digital currency, literally anything. You just go there, global terrorism database, just literally you have to use that framework at all cost. This is one of the best frameworks and websites that uses OSINT, and it's giving us a lot of information about literally anything. So passive information, as I said, is a sort of information gathering when the target do not see anything whatsoever. The active information gathering is a procedure when we gather information, but the target knows that we gather information. We are visible and we can be traced. So in order to understand better the idea, I'm going to give you some examples. When you are basically gathering passive information about a person, you can, for example, go to his Facebook page account or Twitter or Instagram, and if the user do not disable his or her privacy account, you will be able to see all that he shares, all where he was, when, all of his photos and so on. So by exploring his Facebook website or profile, the user have no idea that someone is watching over, right? So from there you can extract information where he was, so on and so on and so on. This example of passive information gathering. Example for active information gathering is when you, for example, go to that person and says, like, you use social ingenuity and asks him something. So you are interacting with that person, right? You are asking, you're receiving a questions, you gather information. Of course, you can spoof yourself, you can ask a question with different meanings, but the point is that you are interacting with that person. So there is interaction, there is a session opened right here. So that's an active information gathering. Now imagine we have a server and we are running that BlackArch machine. When we are gathering passive information, we are using whois records, we are using OSINT. So from open source intelligence, and this open source has nothing to do with the Linux open source movement. Open source here for information gathering means that that information stored there is open to anyone. That means open source there. So through open source frameworks and so on, we gather information about that server, what IP he has, who is information, to who is registered, where it's located, and so on. So that server right here do not know anything about our investigation against it. The firewall see no traffic. But when we want to extract information from that server, we are interacting with that server. Now our packets are moving through a network, through its firewall, to the server and back to us. So now the firewall knows we are requesting and connecting with that server, the server knows, so we are now trackable. So that's the point, guys. I hope I was clear. If I was not, you can ask questions, I can give you more and more examples. So now it's time to run discover, so type discover. Okay, it's getting an error, so okay, I'm getting some errors here. Okay, so I'm gonna copy that. Actually, okay, so now the error was because was against the double interaction of the same script. So under that directory I moved that script with different name. There was against the script with the same name, so discard.sh, and when I run discard.sh, it's making a conflict and the Linux do not know which one to run. So it's running, it's telling us an error. So that's why we just rename that script, and therefore we use the one that we've downloaded. So see, this is our discard script. We have recon, which is basically gathering information. We have scanning, generate target tree, CDR, list, IP range, so on. We can nmap. We can go to insecure direct object references, open multiple tabs, nick to SSL, so it can nick to scan. Nickton is a software for scanning for vulnerabilities. And then we can generate a malicious payload, start a multiple listener, and so on. So now we are interested into the recon part right here, the first section. So recon is, as I said, the process of gathering information, reconnaissance, like literally that means reconnaissance. So we are gathering information. So now let's gather information about a domain. So one. So as you can see, we have passive and active information gathering. So here we can go and play around with the two options. So that's what we're going to do. So go one for passive, and now type our target, in our case info-cyber, domain info-cyber.com. So now that tool is gonna start to engage with different other tools, with different frameworks like ReconNG, the Harvester, and so on. The cool thing about Discover is that it's connecting with different tools, collecting all of its output, and storing everything in an HTML file. So when you open that file, you get a clear idea about what's happening with that target. We either scan active and passive, and when it's scanning passive, as I said, it's using other tools like ReconNG and so on. When it's scanning active, it's using other tools like nmap and so on. Because nmap literally sends packets, waits for that packets to come, and then prints the response. So it's literally sending a packet that says, hey, I want to know your IP address, and the server responds with, that's my IP address, but you are visible to the firewall. So now the script is running. As you can see, it's engaging right now with the Harvester, Bing, it's using search engines and so on. So since this is scanning, I want to explain even more things. So I told you that the passive information gathering can be done literally from many places, and one of the most likely used tool for gathering information is the search engines. So that's what even most of the tools are doing. They are engaging the Google search engine with different parameters depending on our needs. So the search engine, the Google for example, is really one of the best tools for hacking. The web browser itself is one of the best tools for hacking, but now we're talking about Google. From here we can search for information, and everything stored here is all passively. Because by searching something here, we are sending a request to Google server. And from that Google server we are requesting information for someone else. So this tool right here is one of the best for hacking. You're gonna see when the discover completes, we're gonna have Google tabs with different variables inside. So you have to be clear about gathering information and to see what works best for you. I'm here to explain how different tool works, how the information gathering procedure works, and therefore you need to step and see what works the best for you. For me, the best working tool here and the one that do most of the job is Discover, because it's a combination of different scripts, and then the search engines. I do not like to use Motigo, but some people do. Motigo is great too. I'm not saying it's bad. Motigo is great. We're gonna use Motigo to demonstrate how it's working, but I'm more okay to use Discover. So that's just my opinion. Of course, when you go over different tools, make your preferences in your workspace. So to be clear, guys, just a summary of what we have explained. So the information gathering is basically the most important part of hacking or penetration testing. No matter if we hack someone, like some people, we want their account and we want to hack them via social engineering, no matter if we hack some web app or if we hack an infrastructure, we're gonna need to gather as much information as possible. Information is used to find vulnerabilities, and we use vulnerabilities to exploit their weaknesses, and then we use the payload after the exploit is done. So you see, there's a chain going on, and that chain is used nowadays. It's really was here before us and it's gonna be there after us. So this chain is working. That's how a hacking is done. We search for information. We need to know as much as possible, guys. So if we see one information that we can possibly use, we should not stop there and try to hack. We should gather as much information as possible, save that information, build your strategy, and therefore hack into someone's system or hack someone. So that's how it's done. So as I said, you need to really pay close attention to that information gathering part to really understand what I'm explaining. Really, the tools used do not really matter, especially when we're talking about passive information gathering. All of the tools are using the same sources, the same open sources there are. So no matter if you use Montigo, Discover, manual validation via search engines, you're gonna get the exact same result. That's why open source intelligence gathering is basically using the same open sources for information. That's why we get the same result. Of course, when we're talking about that active information gathering, the results can be different, but they still is gonna be alike because they are using the same methods. So literally the two don't really matter. That's the point of what Linux do I use. It really don't matter what Linux do you use. You need to figure it out for yourself. The tools are quite the same here. You need to understand why you need to gather information and basically what type of information there are and how to do that. So what's the idea? You have to think of what's the main idea for gathering information. Why should I do that? Why shouldn't I do that? So I'm telling you the whole process of hacking, and I really ensure that gathering information is the most important part. So the discovery is now finished, or at least finishing, and now basically it's starting to, as you can see, open different pages. The first pages are, as I said, different parameters input in Google. So it's using the search engine and inputting different parameters with that name we gave there to extract the different results. But the first one, as I said, were empty. So we're not gonna need that. Let's just wait a little bit to anything to fill up. Okay. So let's start analyzing page by page. So we have images for that info cyber thing. And as you can see, we have the logo right there. Nice. So we have the logo. And we can validate if we go to the website. Okay, therefore we have different Google parameters, but they are incorrect. We don't have something from there. So we just close that. Therefore we see that some XML file of Amazon AWS, so we know that these guys are using AWS. There is a reference there. So okay, we have all the visible links for that website right there. We have even pictures. We have that direct link to pictures, different uploads, which is nice. Okay, so therefore no cases here, either here, nothing here as well. A Facebook, an Instagram, a LinkedIn, Twitter, YouTube, nothing here. Therefore we have the official website, and therefore we have a page that I told you about it. So we have an HTML page about our results. So see, in general we have background, we have nothing really special here. Let's go to emails. So we have some emails found. Let's go to names, and we have different names about a company. Therefore we have DNS. Of course, all this information should be manually validated in order to make sure that they are correct. So we have all the DNS records right here. Map, and we have an amazing map about that company. So we have a map, a DNS map of all of its records and all of its portals right here. We have mail, cPanel, dev, and so on. They are even using Cloudflare. So see how much information we can get just by using open source intelligence. We have different records right here. Zone transfer, nothing here. Register of domains, no data, subdomains, nice. So all the portals here with the IP addresses. Then on the domains we have the hosts, we have squatting, and basically you see there are a lot of information right here just by asking open source intelligence for that. So I highly suggest to go around and play with that too. It's really working great. You can see we can select, we can go up and find a lot of information. Now from here we can start building our attack strategy. We have different IP addresses. We can now go and manually check all these to see for vulnerabilities. We can then start scanning for active information gathering. We can start scanning the IP addresses. We can go through every single IP addresses and look for vulnerabilities for any single one of them. So now we have something to start with, guys. We have information. Before that we don't know where to start and from where, but when we got information we know from where to start. So guys, this today's video about installing Discover, explaining some of the information gathering procedures and so on, and in the future videos we're gonna continue with series of gathering information because it's really the most important part. So I really appreciate you for watching and see you in the next video, guys.